Disney's animated films are, for a lack of a better word, magical most of the time. Almost every single person you've met that has had a fairly normal childhood has had at least some sort of interaction with Disney's animated movies. Whether it's your grandparents who saw the beginning of it with Snow White, Pinocchio, and Dumbo, your parents who had Sleeping Beauty, Jungle Book, and 101 Dalmatians, or you who grew up in what the world would like to call the Disney Renaissance. If you don't know what the Disney Renaissance is, here's a pretty quick history lesson, and it's actually a really big history lesson about Disney. Walt Disney died in 1966, and his brother died 5 years later, leaving the Walt Disney Company in the hands of Don Tatum, Card Walker, and Ron Miller. And those names probably don't mean anything to you for a reason. Nothing much happened in the world of Disney's animated films for the next 18 years after Roy Disney's death. They weren't releasing films too consistently, and when they did release them, the quality of the films were low, having to recycle old animation, and they weren't doing too incredibly well in the box office and with the critics. Don Bluth's animation company was at the top of the game. Disney was plummeting, and in 1984, Disney was threatened to be purchased off by many different production companies, but Michael Eisner came in and stepped into power. And regardless of what you think of Eisner, he truly did save the Disney company. The animation studio was given more money to produce one of their films to ensure quality, and in 1989, Disney Animation released The Little Mermaid. The movie had fantastic animation and a musical score that felt more like watching Broadway than a movie. It was Disney's most successful film in years, both critically and at the box office. From there on, for the next 10 years, Disney was in their renaissance, subsequently releasing The Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, Pocahontas, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, and Tarzan. And the first 5 films in that renaissance were the ones that were most successful. The latter few were still pretty successful, just not quite as. And after that Renaissance era, Disney animation sort of hit a little bit of a slump. They were still producing film consistently, but they weren't making the same amount of record-breaking money as what they had been making back in the 90s. And they were losing out to rival companies like DreamWorks and Pixar. Pixar wasn't really too much of a rival though for most of the time. Disney had a working relationship and a contract with Pixar, and so it seemed Disney wanted to just let Pixar do what they were doing because what they were doing was very, very, very successful. Disney produced their last hand-drawn film in 2004 with Home on the Range, and it went out with a fizzle. And because of the success of DreamWorks and Pixar 3D animated films, Disney decided to convert to that form of animation, starting off with Chicken Little. It was not received very well, but did make a good amount of money. Then Meet the Robinsons came out, and was received better than Chicken Little, but made less money. And then Bolt came out, which out of these 3 did best in both terms of box office and critical reception. But in 2006, Disney purchased Pixar and put John Lasseter at the head of the Disney Animation Studio, and the first film released under his command was Princess and the Frog, which was a 2D animated film, which is why I'm not really going to include it in this next section that we're talking about here. In 2010, they went back to their 3D animation style and released Tangled, a movie based off of Rapunzel. It was a highly triumphant movie, a movie that was loved by everybody. And this is where I believe the second Disney Renaissance started. I don't know if anyone has really coined that phrase about this era of Disney animation films that we're in right now, whether someone might call it the second Disney Renaissance, or since they're 3D animation, we can call it the 3D-sance or something, I guess. But subsequently after Tangled, we got such films as Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Big Hero 6, and Zootopia. Disney is now back on top of the animation world. So which of these Disney Renaissance were better? That's an incredibly hard question, especially since we're still in the middle of the 3D-assance. So let's only take the first 5 films of the original Renaissance: Little Mermaid, Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and Lion King, and the 5 that we have for the 3D-assance, Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Zootopia, and Big Hero 6, and compare the 2 groups. So I have a couple different categories that we can use to compare these 2 groups to see which one is better. So like if we look at it purely from a box office perspective, because that's all that truly matters, right, is the money, the 3D animated films would be doing absolutely no wrong. Of the 5 movies that we're looking at, the one that has made the least amount of money is Wreck-It Ralph with $471 million worldwide. Both Frozen and Zootopia have made over $1 billion worldwide, with Frozen being the highest grossing animated film of all time. From a purely numbers perspective, the newer Renaissance takes the cake. But that's not really fair to look at because there's all this inflation stuff and more people are seeing movies nowadays, and I'm just too lazy to look at the actual numbers. So what about from a critical standpoint? It's sort of hard to tell which group gets the better critic response because same thing, there's more critics nowadays than there were back in the 90s. But generally speaking, all the movies share similar reviews, which are all very positive. But the one thing the first Renaissance has over the 3D-assance is an Oscar nomination in the Best Motion Picture category, which was awarded to Beauty and the Beast. Yes, all the 3D films have been nominated for Best Animated Feature, but that didn't exist until 2001. So basically, because of that Oscar nod, the critical response category has to go to the original Renaissance because of Beauty and the Beast. So here's a category that I was worried was going to be very, very hard to make a decision on. It's such an important part to these Disney movies. They are what help us remember and love the movies, and that is the music. I was thinking, boy, is it going to be hard because every single movie has such great music in it. But then I realized I can make it really easy on myself and say the 2D movies have 4 movies with musical scenes in it, while the 3D only have 2 movies right now with musical scenes in it. And yes, while Tangled does have some fun music, it's sort of forgettable except for the one about the lights, and Frozen, kind of the same thing, except for the fact that they created one of the most monstrous songs to ever come out of Disney with Let It Go. But the classics, man. Under the Sea, Kiss the Girl, literally every single song from Beauty and the Beast, A Whole New World, Friend Like Me, Circle of Life, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, etc., etc., etc. So if we had to pick which of these movies had the best songs or which song was the best, now that would be impossible. So the category music easily goes to the Renaissance. For now, we'll see what Moana does for the 3D-assance. So on to animation. This is a category that could really just come down to taste. Do you prefer traditional 2D animation or the computer-generated animation? And there's absolutely no denying that both forms of animation can have some true beauty to them. All of the colors to Little Mermaid, the flying scenes in The Rescuers, the set pieces to Beauty and the Beast, what they did with Genie and Aladdin, and the opening to Lion King is honest to God one of my most favorite and what I believe to be one of the most beautiful opening scenes in any movie ever. But with the 3D movies, it was incredible what they did with Rapunzel's hair in Tangled. Wreck-It Ralph's settings and character designs were really nice to look at. What they did with Frozen's snow effects was pretty awesome. Big Hero 6 had amazing sets, character designs, and the scene where Hero and Baymax first test their flying. Jesus Christ, is that beautiful. And Zootopia again had really cool designs, and their animation is starting to look kind of realistic in a weird way. So even though the animation in the 3D films really are starting to look quite incredible, I can't really give it to them quite yet just because I haven't felt wowed by them so many times like I was watching the old Renaissance movies. So for animation, I'm going to stick with that 2D hand-drawn animation because what they do is pretty incredible. But again, we'll see what happens when Moana comes out because that also looks pretty gorgeous. And now I will look at a category that is truly impossible. The one that doesn't really have a true answer, but the one that I have to make a decision on, and it's going to be a completely personal thing. Which movies do I like more overall? Which ones do I feel had a bigger impact on me and everyone else? Again, opinions. Please remember, opinions. The original Renaissance, all of the movies were based on previous fairy tales, but had the Disney spin put onto it. The 3D-assance has had a mix of fairy tales and original stories. It's truly hard to say which stories I liked better, but because of the original stories like Wreck-It Ralph and Zootopia, I think I would have to give it to the 3D-assance. Plus, their movies have had more deep themes, such as Frozen showing us that the old Disney formula of finding true love doesn't really need to be a thing so long as that you have your family. Wreck-It Ralph told us that you are who you choose to be, kinda like the Iron Giant. Big Hero 6 showed us a lot about depression and giving your full potential in the face of adversity, and Zootopia, of course, had huge themes about the horrors of racism. I honestly feel that the newer movies have done a great job of giving very mature stories for kids' movies. But part of the reason the original Renaissance happened was because of the new direction the stories were being told. They were told in a more grand way than the previous Disney animated movies. Each of the movies also had some of Disney's most iconic characters. And again, the songs. How could those songs be any more iconic? You'd be hard pressed to find any single one person that doesn't at least kind of know one of the songs from the 90s movies. And there's a magic about those movies. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but watching those movies just make me feel so happy. But so do the 3D movies. The thing that I think wins me the most over with the new 3D Assance are the tears. I really feel emotionally connected with most of the movies in that group. And for whatever reason, almost every movie has choked me up in some way. Wreck-It Ralph gave me Iron Giant PTSD when he sacrificed himself to save everyone. Frozen really was powerful in the idea of your family being the most important thing in your life. Big Hero 6 when Hero saw the video of Tadashi, and then when Baymax sacrificed himself for Hero. Oh my god. In Zootopia, the scene where Nick was a little kid and he was talking about how he was being picked on for being a carnivore. That was pretty awful. And I think the only time I've really almost ever cried during one of the original Renaissance movies is Mufasa's death. Nothing quite as powerful as in the new ones. And it's an extremely hard call to say which movies I like better. It's choosing your favorite kid. I'd say that it's like 51-49, and I would have to make the extremely tough choice and say the 3D Assance are the movies I prefer to watch. Disney is really hitting out of the park right now with these movies. And in the next 20 years, when we're looking back at them, we will most certainly be seeing them as classics. And in that same time, we will be looking back at both of these eras of Disney animated films and see how lucky we are to have these movies. Disney movies are a pretty awesome thing, and I love them. They have characters we love, great stories, amazing songs, beautiful animation, and can be enjoyed by mostly everyone. You are never too old for Disney. And obviously, every single movie I've talked about today will always have a very special place in my heart. But if I had to choose a winner between the 3D Renaissance and the 2D Renaissance, today it's got to go to the 3D Assance. So I hope you sort of enjoyed me rambling about Disney movies for a little while. I was doing a different video, but was just kind of having a big old brain fart on it and wasn't having too much fun with it. So I was just like, yeah, I'm going to talk about Disney movies for a little while. So yeah, I'm a super cool 20-year-old man who talked about Disney movies for like 13 minutes or something. But it was def worth it, y'all.